This video is presented to you by the Hidden Treasury, where we bring ancient wisdom to modern minds. If you love uncovering timeless insights that still shape our world today, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out. Now, let's dive in.
The spotlight effect theory. Picture yourself walking into a crowded cafe. You've just spilled a few drops of coffee on your white shirt. Your heart races, and suddenly it feels like every single person in that cafe is staring at you, judging you, noticing that small brown stain that seems to be screaming for attention. In your mind, you've become the center of a spotlight that doesn't actually exist. This, dear listeners, is the spotlight effect theory. Our tendency to overestimate how much other people notice about us, both our failures and our triumphs. Think of it as wearing a pair of glasses that magnifies how visible we think we are to others, when in reality, everyone else is wearing their own pair, focused on themselves. The term was coined by psychologists Thomas Gilovich and Kenneth Savitsky in 1999, but the phenomenon has been part of human experience for as long as we've had self-consciousness. In their groundbreaking study, they asked college students to wear an embarrassing T-shirt, one with a large picture of Barry Manilow, into a room full of their peers. Before entering, the students predicted that about half of the people in the room would notice their shirt. In reality, only about 25% did. Why does this happen? Imagine you're the director of your own life's movie. You're always at the center of your own experience. Every thought, every emotion, every minor embarrassment plays out on your personal main stage. But here's the beautiful truth. Everyone else is the director of their own movie too. While you're worrying about that small coffee stain, they're probably consumed by their own narratives, their own concerns, their own spotlight effects. Let's explore this deeper through another story. Sarah, a public speaker, once gave a presentation where she stumbled over her words for a brief moment. For days afterward, she was convinced that this tiny mistake had ruined her entire speech and that everyone remembered it. But when she asked audience members later, most couldn't even recall the stumble. They remembered her insights, her presence, but not the small imperfection that had seemed so glaring to her. The spotlight effect teaches us something profoundly liberating. We are both more and less important than we imagine, more important in our own internal world, less important in everyone else's. This isn't because others don't care about us, but because they're caught up in their own spotlight effects, their own internal movies. Think about how this knowledge might free you. That awkward moment in the meeting? Most people have already forgotten it. That mismatched outfit you wore last week? It likely registered for mere seconds in others' minds, if at all. The spotlight effect is like a magnifying mirror. It shows us our flaws in high definition, but no one else is looking through that same mirror. Understanding this can be incredibly liberating. It doesn't mean we should stop caring about how we present ourselves or what we contribute to the world. Rather, it invites us to be more compassionate with ourselves, to understand that our perceived spotlight is often just that, perceived. As you drift towards sleep tonight, consider releasing yourself from your self-imposed spotlight. Remember that just as the stars in the night sky shine without worrying who's watching, you too can move through life with less self-consciousness and more self-acceptance. The spotlight effect is merely an illusion of our minds, and in recognizing it, we find a kind of freedom, the freedom to be imperfectly, beautifully human. The Fermi Paradox. You are standing on a quiet hilltop, looking up at a night sky splattered with stars. Some of these stars have their own planets, some of which might even look something like Earth. And in one of those far-off worlds, there might be beings looking up, just like you are. But if there's so much potential for life out there, then a question emerges, like an uninvited guest. Just, why haven't we heard from anyone yet? This question, this unsettling silence from the cosmos, is what the Fermi Paradox seeks to explore. It's named after physicist Enrico Fermi, who in the middle of a casual lunch in 1950 asked, "Where is everybody?" A simple question with implications as deep as the universe itself. The Fermi Paradox isn't just about the absence of little green men waving at us. It's about reconciling the high probability of extraterrestrial life with the eerie quiet that seems to surround us. To break it down, the paradox rests on a few fundamental ideas. First, that the universe is unbelievably vast, and second, that within this vastness there should be other intelligent civilizations. Statistically, given the age of the universe and the countless billions of stars and planets, it seems almost certain that intelligent life should have arisen elsewhere. And if these civilizations have had millions or even billions of years to develop, some of them should have, advanced far beyond our current technological stage to the point where they could theoretically communicate with or even visit us. So, why the silence? One possible answer lies in something called the Great Filter. Imagine that along the journey from simple life to advanced, spacefaring civilizations, there are immense hurdles or filters that most life forms don't survive. This Great Filter could be something behind us. Maybe life itself is incredibly rare, or maybe complex, multicellular organisms are unlikely to arise. In that case, we might already be past the hardest part, and we're on our way to eventually making contact with other civilizations. But there's a darker possibility. What if the Great Filter lies ahead of us? Perhaps intelligent civilizations inevitably self-destruct or face an unavoidable cosmic disaster. If that's the case, then the silence might be a warning rather than a mystery. Another theory speculates that advanced civilizations have simply chosen to stay silent, either to avoid drawing attention to themselves or to observe us without interference, as if we're a cosmic nature reserve. This idea is known as the zoo hypothesis, suggesting that more advanced beings might find us fascinating but primitive, worth studying but not worth interacting with directly. They're out there, but they're simply watching from afar, letting us evolve without interference. And then there's the possibility that we're looking in the wrong way or perhaps listening on the wrong channels. Imagine tuning a radio to a specific station, but the broadcast is on a frequency we haven't even considered yet. Or perhaps their methods of communication are so advanced that they're invisible to us, like sending a letter to someone who only uses email. It could be that out in the universe, signals are flowing back and forth, but we simply don't have the means or the knowledge to detect them. For some, the answer to the Fermi Paradox might be that we are indeed alone, that Earth is the rare exception in a quiet cosmos. This idea, known as the rare Earth hypothesis, suggests that conditions like ours are so unique that it's unlikely they exist anywhere else. If true, then life as we know it might be a spectacular anomaly in the universe. In contemplating the Fermi Paradox, we're not just searching for life in distant star systems. We're seeking our place in the vast story of the universe. Are we a common chapter, one among many? Or are we the universe's only storytellers? The Fermi Paradox doesn't give us answers. It merely opens up the space for questions as deep and vast as the night sky. It challenges our assumptions and reminds us of the immensity of what we don't know, nudging us to look up with a bit more wonder and perhaps a hint of trepidation. The Matrix. Imagine if one day you discovered that everything you know, the world, your relationships, even the very air you breathe, is part of an elaborate simulation. You're a character in a system that looks real, feels real, and even fools your own mind. Welcome to the Matrix, a thought experiment that explores the boundaries between reality, illusion, and control. While the Matrix concept became popular through the 1999 film, it has deep philosophical roots that question whether reality itself could be an illusion. The film might be fiction, but its questions about perception, technology, and existence resonate with some of the most intriguing ideas in philosophy and science. At its core, the Matrix theory asks, can we trust our perceptions? Everything we know about reality comes through our senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. But if our senses could be manipulated, would we even know? In a way, we're all plugged into a matrix of our own, our brains. Every experience, from the warmth of sunlight to the taste of food, is processed in the mind. The brain relies on electrical impulses and chemical signals, not unlike a computer processing code. But if these signals were intercepted and replaced with artificial ones, our brains might still interpret them as real. In the movie, humanity is trapped within a virtual construct, a world that only exists in their minds, while their physical bodies are imprisoned and used as batteries. This premise builds on an idea explored by philosophers like René Descartes, who proposed the possibility of an evil demon that could be deceiving us into believing in a false reality. Today, we might substitute Descartes' demon with advanced artificial intelligence, asking whether a machine could fool us just as easily. The matrix concept has philosophical precedents going back thousands of years. One of the most well-known is Plato's allegory of the cave. Imagine prisoners chained inside a dark cave facing a blank wall. They've been there since birth, so they've never seen the outside world. Behind them, a fire burns, and people pass in front of the fire, casting shadows on the wall. The prisoners see these shadows and hear echoes, and to them, this is reality. One day, a prisoner escapes and sees the world outside the cave, the sun, trees, rivers, and people. He realizes that the shadows he's known his whole life were just illusions. In Plato's allegory, the journey out of the cave is a journey toward knowledge and enlightenment, the realization that there is a reality beyond what we directly perceive. The Matrix updates this allegory for the digital age. Instead of shadows on a wall, humans in the Matrix experience a fully immersive illusion designed to keep them docile and unaware of their real situation. But the lesson remains the same. Breaking free from illusion requires questioning reality, a difficult task in a world where illusion feels as real as any physical sensation. The Matrix idea isn't just a fantasy for the screen. The concept has real-world proponents among philosophers and scientists who propose simulation theory, the idea that our universe could be an artificial simulation. The argument was famously put forward by philosopher Nick Bostrom, who suggested that advanced civilizations might create simulations so sophisticated that their inhabitants would believe they were real. If this were possible, and if such civilizations created many simulations, it could be statistically likely that we're living in one of them. Bostrom's theory doesn't claim to prove we're in a simulation, but it challenges us to consider the possibility. After all, if we already have virtual reality technology and are advancing AI, could it be only a matter of time before simulations are indistinguishable from the real world? If that's the case, then our very reality could be an advanced simulation controlled by beings or systems beyond our understanding. The Matrix also explores questions of free will and determinism. In the film, Neo is told he has a choice. Take the red pill to wake up to the real world, or take the blue pill to remain in the simulated comfort of the Matrix. This choice is symbolic, presenting a philosophical question that goes beyond the movie's plot. Do we have genuine freedom, or are our actions controlled by unseen forces? The Matrix implies that as long as we remain within the bounds of a controlled reality, our choices might be manipulated by the rules of that reality. This idea echoes deterministic philosophies, which argue that everything we do is the result of prior causes, our environment, biology, and the systems we're part of. In The Matrix, Neo's choice to rebel against his artificial reality symbolizes a struggle for autonomy and authenticity in a world that constantly shapes us. One of the most compelling aspects of The Matrix is its exploration of awakening. In philosophical terms, awakening is often seen as enlightenment, a moment of clarity where one sees reality as it truly is, free from illusions or biases. For Neo, taking the red pill is his awakening. He chooses to see the truth, however painful or disorienting it may be. The Matrix suggests that enlightenment isn't necessarily about finding new knowledge, but about questioning the knowledge we already have. This moment of awakening resonates with many spiritual traditions, from Buddhism's concept of enlightenment to Socrates' famous assertion that the unexamined life is not worth living. The red pill represents the willingness to question, to confront uncomfortable truths, and to risk leaving behind the comfort of familiar illusions. In our own world, the Matrix metaphor is often applied to modern life, where technology, media, and social structures can act as a kind of matrix of their own. Algorithms influence our choices, social media shapes our perceptions, and the pressures of consumer culture tell us what to value. Just as Neo breaks free from his simulated world, we are challenged to recognize the forces that influence us and to decide whether we accept or resist them. Ultimately, the Matrix leaves us with an open-ended question. How do we know what is real? And if reality could be manipulated, do we have the courage to seek the truth no matter the cost? The red pill symbolizes a universal human choice, the choice to seek truth and authenticity in a world that often presents comfortable illusions. For anyone who has ever wondered if there's more to life than what meets the eye, the Matrix is a powerful reminder that the journey to understand reality is as transformative as it is unsettling. And like Neo, we are all invited to take that leap, to wake up, and to question the nature of the world we call home. The Butterfly Dream Paradox. Imagine a man lying under a tree, drifting off to sleep as the breeze rustles the leaves around him. He dreams that he's a butterfly, fluttering through the air, feeling the sunlight on his wings, experiencing the world in soft, vibrant colors. In this state, he is fully and completely a butterfly. He feels only the lightness of flying and the serenity of floating on the wind. Suddenly, he wakes up. Once again, a man. The experience fades, but a haunting question lingers. Was he a man dreaming he was a butterfly? Or is he now a butterfly dreaming he's a man? This ancient story, known as the Butterfly Dream Paradox, is attributed to the Chinese philosopher Chuangzi, who lived around the 4th century BCE. Chuangzi's dream raises one of the most profound questions in philosophy. How can we know what is truly real? Are we certain of the reality we are in, or could it all be an illusion, much like the way we perceive our dreams? Chuangzi's butterfly dream touches on a universal human experience, the vividness of dreams. Most people have experienced dreams that felt so real, so complete, that they briefly believed them to be their true reality. In those moments, we rarely question the authenticity of the dream world. Our mind creates narratives, sensations, and emotions that feel entirely genuine. It's only when we wake up that we realize we were in a different state altogether. This paradox invites us to consider whether there's a fundamental difference between dreams and waking reality. In the dream, Chuangzi was a butterfly. He experienced the world through its eyes, with its perspective and sensations. Upon waking, he found himself back as Chuangzi, a man. But if his perception was entirely altered in the dream, how could he be sure which experience was the true one? This leads us to question the nature of our own reality. Is there any infallible way to confirm that we are not, in fact, dreaming right now? Chuangzi's story also opens up questions about subjective reality. The idea that reality is not absolute, but perceived individually by each of us. What we see, hear, and feel is filtered through our minds, shaped by our beliefs, biases, and senses. In this sense, each person experiences a version of reality unique to themselves. Just as Chuangzi, when he was a butterfly, had an entirely different experience of the world, we might each be living in slightly different versions of reality based on our own perceptions. An analogy often used to illustrate subjective reality is a film projector. Each person's mind can be thought of as a projector, casting its own unique version of the movie of life onto a blank screen. The scene might be the same, but the interpretation, the colors, and the emotional resonance vary with each person watching. The Butterfly Dream Paradox shares common ground with other philosophical questions about reality and existence. One famous example is Descartes' cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, which was Descartes' attempt to find a truth that could not be doubted. Descartes considered the possibility of being deceived by a powerful entity, but he concluded that his ability to doubt meant that he existed, at least as a thinking entity. However, even with this assurance, Descartes couldn't be sure of the nature of the external world. This paradox also mirrors ideas in Hindu philosophy, where the concept of Maya describes the world as an illusion, a veil that obscures the true nature of reality. Just as in Chuangzi's dream, where the line between butterfly and man is blurred, Maya suggests that the line between reality and illusion may be indistinct. Both concepts challenge the certainty of our knowledge and the reliability of our perceptions. In modern philosophy, Chuangzi's butterfly dream resonates with the brain in a vat thought experiment. Imagine a brain kept alive in a vat, wired to a supercomputer simulating sensory experiences. The brain would have no way of knowing it was in a vat. It would experience a full, rich world created by the computer. This scenario is often used to illustrate how reliant we are on our senses and perceptions, which can be manipulated or deceived. Just as the brain in a vat would accept the simulated world as reality, we might be accepting our own experiences without question. So, Chuangzi's question lingers. If we cannot rely on our senses, how can we determine what is real? At its core, the butterfly dream paradox doesn't provide an answer. It leaves us with an open-ended question. And perhaps that's the point. Chuangzi's philosophy often emphasizes the idea of going with the flow, accepting the uncertainty of life. Rather than seeking concrete answers, Chuangzi encourages us to embrace the mystery of existence and live harmoniously within it. One of the lessons we might draw from the butterfly dream paradox is that reality, whether objective or subjective, is complex and multifaceted. Just as we sometimes take our dreams seriously while we're in them, it's possible that our perception of reality might be just one layer in a much larger tapestry. Chuangzi invites us not to view this as a limitation, but as a source of wonder. There's a poetic beauty in the idea that we might all be butterflies, flitting from one dream to another, each one feeling as real as the last. And if reality is indeed a dream, Chuangzi seems to suggest that we should not struggle to dissect it. Instead, perhaps we can savor each moment, like the butterfly savoring each flight, each flower, each patch of sunlight. After all, whether we are butterflies or humans, the experience of being, even if uncertain, might be the greatest mystery of all. In the end, Chuangzi's butterfly dream paradox isn't about solving the question of what is real or fake. It's about appreciating the mystery of perception itself. It reminds us that reality is perhaps not just about what we see or touch, but about the ever-shifting dance of experiences that makes life so rich, strange, and beautiful. The experience machine theory. Suppose a machine that can give you the perfect life. Every experience you've ever wanted, traveling the world, falling in love, achieving fame, could be yours at the push of a button. This isn't a fantasy. It's a thought experiment called the experience machine, proposed by philosopher Robert Nozick in 1974. He presented it as a challenge to a popular philosophical idea known as hedonism, which says that happiness or pleasure is the highest good and the only thing that truly matters in life. But here's the catch. Once you're plugged into the machine, you won't know you're inside it. Every experience will feel real, every sensation vivid, but it will all be artificial. The machine will stimulate your brain, making you feel like you're living the life of your dreams. So, would you choose to plug in? The experience machine presents a tantalizing question. If pleasure and happiness are the only things that truly matter, then why shouldn't we plug into the machine? If the machine can give us everything we desire and make us feel happy all the time, wouldn't that be the best possible life? But Nozick's point was to challenge this very assumption. By asking whether we'd plug in, he's asking us to consider what we value most in life. Is pleasure really the ultimate goal, or do we also value authenticity, genuine relationships, personal growth, and the sense of accomplishment that comes from facing real challenges? Imagine being able to program your life experiences like a movie script. You could decide that tomorrow you'll wake up as a world-renowned artist or a successful entrepreneur. You could design a love story that's free from heartbreak or a career that's free from failure. This vision of a perfect, pleasure-filled existence seems like the ultimate escape from the hardships of reality. The machine offers a reality where there are no disappointments, no unfulfilled dreams, and no setbacks. Every moment would be crafted to maximize your happiness and eliminate all suffering. At first glance, it sounds like an easy choice. After all, who doesn't want happiness and pleasure? But Nozick argued that if we stop and think about it, many of us would hesitate to plug in. The machine strips away everything that makes life unpredictable, real, and uniquely ours. It gives us happiness, but it takes away the meaning that comes from real experiences, relationships, and personal achievements. Why would anyone hesitate to enter the experience machine? Nozick suggested that we value more than just feeling good. We want our experiences to be real. We don't just want the feeling of achieving something, we want to actually achieve it. There's a profound difference between the simulated feeling of climbing a mountain and the actual experience of struggling up each step, feeling the burn in your legs, and reaching the summit. In essence, Nozick believed that we crave authenticity. The idea of experiencing love, success, or adventure in a simulated reality might feel hollow because we know it's not genuinely happening. The love in the machine is programmed, the challenges are artificial, and the victories are predetermined. Without the possibility of failure, can success even hold real meaning? One of the things that the experience machine lacks is struggle. Real life includes challenges, setbacks, and pain, but these are also the moments where we grow, learn, and transform. Nozick's thought experiment touches on the idea that growth comes through overcoming real obstacles, not merely experiencing pleasure. Think about a story where the hero always succeeds, never faces any hardships, and wins every battle easily. It would quickly become a boring story, wouldn't it? In the same way, a life without real challenges might feel empty. The experience machine can give us pleasure, but it denies us the journey, the failures, and the lessons that make real achievements meaningful. Another issue with the experience machine is that it removes our sense of control. Once you're inside, the machine decides what happens. You've pre-programmed your life to bring you happiness, but you're no longer an active participant in it. Instead, you're simply receiving experiences, like a movie playing in front of your eyes. In real life, every decision we make shapes who we are, from the small choices to the life-altering ones. Being in the machine would mean giving up this autonomy, the freedom to make choices and to discover ourselves through them. In a way, this thought experiment reflects the human need for self-discovery. Real life offers surprises, unexpected turns, and opportunities for self-reflection. The machine, however, offers a closed loop of experiences that reflect only what you think you want, without the possibility of discovering something new. Nozick's experience machine raises profound questions about what makes life worth living. Are pleasure and happiness enough? Or do we need authenticity, struggle, autonomy, and growth to feel truly alive? The thought experiment doesn't give us a definitive answer, but it invites us to reflect on our own values. If we say we wouldn't plug into the machine, it might be because we value a life that's rich with the messiness and complexity of reality. We want relationships that are real, achievements that are earned, and a life that unfolds in ways we can't always control. The experience machine challenges us to define our own sense of purpose. In the end, it's not a question of whether the machine could give us happiness. It's about whether happiness alone would be enough for us to feel that we're truly living. The Library of Babel concept. Picture yourself at a library so vast, it contains every single book ever written, and every book that could ever be written. In its endless corridors, you'd find a text with the complete works of Shakespeare, but also countless near duplicates where every letter is off by one. Somewhere, there's a book that holds the exact description of your life from birth to this very moment, as well as countless others that detail versions of your life that you never lived. This is the Library of Babel, an idea conceived by the Argentine writer Jorge Luis Borges in 1941. In Borges's mind-bending short story, the Library of Babel is not just a literary device, but a philosophical concept that challenges our understanding of infinity, knowledge, and meaning. Imagine walking into this library. The shelves extend in every direction as far as the eye can see. Row after row, shelf after shelf, all filled with books that contain every possible arrangement of letters and punctuation. Borges imagined each book as 410 pages long, each page with a fixed number of letters. In such a library, there would be books that contain profound insights into the universe, mixed with books that are pure gibberish, and others that are almost right, but not quite. It's a powerful metaphor for human knowledge and the search for meaning in a vast and often incomprehensible universe. The library, with its infinite possibilities, is a paradox. It holds every truth, every answer, but it's also mostly noise, an overwhelming ocean of meaningless text. To truly understand the Library of Babel, we need to dive into the philosophical implications of infinity, randomness, and our search for meaning. Jorge Luis Borges was deeply fascinated by the nature of knowledge and the limits of human understanding. In his short story, The Library of Babel, he describes a universe that is, in fact, a library, an infinite array of hexagonal rooms, each filled with books that together contain every possible combination of letters. This library embodies infinity in the purest sense, a place where everything exists but almost nothing makes sense. The concept wasn't just a literary invention. It reflects questions that philosophers and mathematicians have pondered for centuries. How do we navigate an infinite realm of information? How do we find meaning in a universe that seems indifferent, where truth is hidden among countless falsehoods? Borges used the Library of Babel to push these questions to their limits. At the heart of the Library of Babel lies the concept of infinity. In an infinite library, every possible book exists, but so does every incorrect version of that book. Somewhere in this library there is a book that describes exactly how the universe works, down to the finest detail. But the vast majority of books are filled with random sequences of letters, making it nearly impossible to find anything meaningful. It's like looking for a needle in an endless stack of hay. This brings us to a profound philosophical point. In an infinite universe, even if all knowledge exists, most of it might be inaccessible or buried in noise. Imagine trying to find a single meaningful sentence in an ocean of nonsense. The Library of Babel suggests that even if every answer is out there, the vastness of possibilities makes finding it almost hopeless. The Library of Babel serves as a powerful analogy for the Internet, where we have access to more information than ever before. Just like the library, the Internet holds both profound truths and endless misinformation. We live in an age where knowledge is abundant, but distinguishing valuable information from irrelevant or misleading content is an enormous challenge. Borges foresaw this problem long before the digital age, hinting at the difficulty of finding meaningful insights amidst overwhelming noise. In Borges's library, the endless corridors of books are also a metaphor for the human quest for meaning. We are constantly searching for answers about ourselves, our place in the universe, and the nature of reality. But the Library of Babel warns us that even if we had access to infinite knowledge, much of it would still be incomprehensible or useless. One of the most fascinating aspects of Borges's library is how it reflects our deep-seated curiosity and desire to understand the universe. Even though the majority of books in the library are gibberish, the inhabitants of Borges's world are driven to explore, hoping to find just one book that contains a coherent answer. The librarians in Borges's story spend their lives searching for meaning, piecing together fragments of understanding from books that are often nonsensical. It's a journey that mirrors the human condition, our endless search for knowledge in a world that sometimes feels vast and unknowable. In this way, the Library of Babel resonates with the existentialist idea that we must create our own meaning in an indifferent universe. Just as the librarians search for purpose in an endless sea of information, we too search for meaning in a world that doesn't always offer clear answers. The Library of Babel challenges us to think about the nature of knowledge, randomness, and meaning. In its infinite shelves, every truth exists, but so does every falsehood, every meaningless sequence, and every possible version of every possible story. The library is both a paradise and a prison, offering the promise of infinite knowledge, but also confronting us with the impossibility of finding it. Through this concept, Borges reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge is not just about collecting facts or seeking definitive answers. It's also about navigating uncertainty, embracing the unknown, and finding value in the journey itself. Like the librarians of the infinite library, we are all searching for meaning, hoping to find coherence amidst the chaos. And perhaps in that search, we create our own purpose, turning a vast, incomprehensible universe into something personally meaningful. The Library of Babel, then, is a reflection of life itself, an infinite, bewildering expanse where we, the explorers, must find our own way through the shelves. The egg theory. Imagine this. You're walking home after a long day, lost in thought, when suddenly everything goes dark. You blink, confused, and realize you're in a completely different place. There's no pain, no fear, just a gentle curiosity. A figure approaches, calm and knowing, and before you can even ask, they tell you you're dead. But rather than fading into the unknown, you're about to learn something extraordinary. This is the starting point of The Egg Theory, a thought-provoking story by Andy Weir, the author of The Martian. In a few hundred words, this theory proposes an idea about life, consciousness, and the nature of existence that has captivated millions of readers. The Egg Theory invites us to consider a radical, mind-bending concept. What if we are all the same soul, reincarnating across time, experiencing every single life in the history of humanity? You are not just you. You are also every person who has ever lived, is living, and will live. In this framework, every relationship, every conflict, every kindness is, in essence, a connection with yourself. At its heart, the Egg Theory explores the concept of universal oneness. In most spiritual traditions, there is an underlying idea that all beings are interconnected, that we're all part of a larger whole. The Egg Theory takes this a step further, suggesting that this unity is literal, that every person you encounter is in some way a different version of you. When you hold a door open for a stranger, you're showing kindness to yourself. When you argue with someone, you're actually struggling with an aspect of your own nature. This perspective has profound implications. If everyone you meet is another version of you, then every act of compassion, empathy, and forgiveness becomes an act of self-love. When viewed through this lens, the moral philosophy of treat others as you would want to be treated isn't just a guideline for polite behavior. It becomes a fundamental truth of existence. In Weir's story, the protagonist learns about this concept through a conversation with a being who may be God, or perhaps simply a higher form of consciousness. This being explains that Earth is essentially an egg where souls incubate. Life after life, they are reincarnated in different forms and circumstances, gradually learning, experiencing, and evolving. When every possible life has been lived, when every perspective has been understood, the soul will hatch from the egg, becoming something greater, perhaps even like this godlike figure. The God character implies that the purpose of life isn't about achieving individual greatness or accumulating material success. Instead, it's about gaining empathy, understanding, and wisdom. The journey isn't just about your life as you currently know it. It's about understanding the full range of human experience, from the heights of joy to the depths of despair. In the grand scheme, your current identity is only a single thread in a vast, interconnected tapestry. If everyone you encounter is another version of yourself, then empathy becomes more than an emotional response. It becomes a necessity. Think of it this way. If you were to experience every person's life, wouldn't it make sense to treat everyone with compassion? After all, their struggles and triumphs are, in this theory, your own. The Egg Theory encourages us to view human conflict, discrimination, and prejudice as misunderstandings within ourselves, a failure to recognize our shared consciousness. This idea reflects the principle of non-duality, a concept in many Eastern philosophies that emphasizes the illusion of separation. According to non-duality, the distinctions between you and me, us and them, are ultimately false, mere constructs of our minds. The Egg Theory takes this idea into a fictional yet deeply insightful context. By suggesting that everyone is one soul, it challenges us to think beyond our individual boundaries and to see ourselves in others. The Egg Theory also touches on ideas found in Hinduism and Buddhism, where reincarnation and karma are key components. However, it deviates in its assertion of a single soul rather than multiple. In Hinduism, the concept of Atman, or the individual soul, is part of Brahman, the universal soul. Buddhism teaches that the self is an illusion, and the journey is about dissolving the ego. The Egg Theory simplifies these ideas into a single, digestible concept, making it accessible for readers of all backgrounds. By envisioning every life as part of one soul's journey, it offers a unifying perspective that aligns with spiritual themes without requiring adherence to any specific belief system. Beyond spirituality, the Egg Theory also aligns with certain principles in quantum physics and consciousness studies. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness itself might be a fundamental element of reality, woven into the fabric of existence. While scientists haven't found any empirical basis for reincarnation or the existence of a universal consciousness, The egg theory offers a fictional yet fascinating thought experiment that bridges these scientific mysteries with human experience. So, how might our lives change if we truly embrace the egg theory? Imagine going through your day with the awareness that every interaction is, in a way, a conversation with yourself. Small annoyances, like a rude cashier or an impatient driver, might start to feel different. You may find yourself responding with understanding instead of frustration, thinking, "This too is me, just in a different circumstance." Conflicts might take on new meaning as opportunities to reconcile with parts of yourself that you find difficult or uncomfortable. This doesn't mean that life becomes instantly easier, but it does encourage a mindset of patience and understanding. By internalizing the egg theory, you could foster a sense of peace, a feeling that no matter what happens, every experience is helping you grow and evolve. You're not just learning for yourself in this life, but for every future life, every future version of you. The egg theory may be a work of fiction, but its message lingers. It speaks to a longing we all have to feel connected, to transcend the barriers that separate us from each other. Whether or not we are all truly one soul, as the theory suggests, it reminds us that we have the capacity to expand our understanding, to embrace empathy, and to view life as a journey of growth and unity. The egg invites us to see the world as a place where every interaction, every relationship, every moment is part of a grander story, a story of learning, compassion, and connection across time and space. The temporal experience. Theory. Have you ever noticed how time seems to fly when you're having fun, yet crawls at a snail's pace during that last hour of work? This curious relationship with time brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of human consciousness, the temporal experience theory, which explores how our minds perceive and process the passage of time. Think of time like water flowing through a river. While the actual flow rate remains constant, our experience of it varies dramatically based on where we're standing and what we're doing. This is the essence of temporal experience, the subjective way we perceive time's passage, often in stark contrast to its objective measurement. Let's dive deeper through a simple example. Remember your last vacation. Those beautiful days probably felt like they zipped by in moments. Yet think back to your childhood summers, they seem to stretch on endlessly. This isn't just nostalgia. It's a fundamental aspect of how our brains process temporal experience. The theory suggests that our perception of time isn't fixed like a metronome, but is instead highly malleable, influenced by several fascinating factors. The first is novelty. New experiences cause our brains to create more detailed memories, making time feel longer in retrospect. This explains why your first day at a new job feels longer than your 100th day. Your brain is working harder to process all the new information. Consider this. Researchers have found that time seems to speed up as we age. This isn't because our biological clocks run faster, but because we experience fewer novel situations. When you're 5 years old, everything is new. Each day brings unprecedented experiences, making time feel expansive. By the time you're 50, many experiences are routine, causing time to feel like it's rushing by. The theory also explains the holiday paradox, how vacations can feel quick while we're experiencing them, but long when we remember them. It's like your brain creates a detailed photo album of new experiences, making the memory feel rich and time-stretched, even though the actual experience might have felt brief. Emotion plays a crucial role, too. Time seems to slow down during dangerous or frightening situations. Think of how a near-miss accident seems to happen in slow motion. This is your brain switching to high alert mode, processing information more quickly, and creating an illusion of slowed time. It's like your mind's frame rate suddenly increasing, capturing more detail in each moment. But perhaps most fascinating is how our attention shapes temporal experience. When you're fully engaged in an activity, what psychologists call flow state time seems to disappear altogether. It's as if your consciousness temporarily steps outside the river of time. Conversely, when you're acutely aware of time's passage, like watching a clock during a boring meeting, each minute feels excruciatingly long. The theory has profound implications for how we live our lives. Understanding that novel experiences expand our perception of time suggests a solution to the feeling that life is rushing by. Seek out new experiences, learn new skills, visit new places. Each novel experience is like dropping a pebble in the river of time, creating ripples that slow its perceived flow. Moreover, this understanding can help us design our days more effectively. If we want time to feel richer and fuller, we might intentionally vary our routines, engage in new activities, or simply pay more attention to the present moment. It's like being both the photographer and the subject of your temporal experience, consciously choosing what to focus on and how to frame each moment. As you rest with these thoughts, consider how your own temporal experience shifts and changes. Notice how this very moment might feel different now that you're paying attention to it. Perhaps time isn't just something that happens to us, but something we actively participate in shaping through our attention, our choices, and our willingness to embrace new experiences. Remember, while we cannot control time's objective passage, we have remarkable influence over how we experience its flow. In understanding this, we gain a tool for making our finite time feel richer, fuller, and more meaningful. Philosophical zombie. Picture yourself at a bustling cafe, and across the room, someone is reading, sipping coffee, glancing out the window. They look engaged, maybe even contemplative, like they're deeply experiencing the world around them. But here's the twist. What if that person isn't actually conscious? What if they don't have any inner experience? No thoughts, no emotions, no awareness, but simply act as though they do. In other words, what if they're a philosophical zombie? This mind-bending thought experiment, known as the philosophical zombie theory, poses a profound question. Could a creature exist that appears perfectly human, behaves exactly like us, but lacks any conscious experience? Philosopher David Chalmers introduced the term philosophical zombie in his discussions on consciousness and the hard problem of understanding it. This theory is a fascinating way to explore what consciousness is, and more importantly, why it exists. To better understand this idea, let's dive into the basics. Philosophical zombies look and act just like humans. They'd laugh at jokes, recoil from pain, and make decisions in seemingly thoughtful ways. But unlike humans, they wouldn't feel anything. Their reactions are all mechanistic, like a highly advanced robot programmed to simulate emotions without actually experiencing them. If you say something surprising, they might gasp, but this gasp wouldn't be accompanied by the inner sensation of shock or surprise. They're empty, devoid of subjective experience. The concept of philosophical zombies is important because it confronts a mystery at the heart of consciousness studies. Why do we have conscious experience at all? When we see something beautiful like a sunset, we don't just react to it physically. We experience a sense of awe. But why couldn't we just function without that awareness, responding like sophisticated machines? The question goes to the core of the hard problem of consciousness. What is the purpose of subjective experience? One way to approach this is through an analogy. Imagine you have two computers. One is programmed to perform calculations, and the other is programmed to produce a pleasant sound whenever it completes a task. The added sound doesn't change the function. It's just an extra sensory experience. Similarly, philosophers ask, could our conscious experience simply be a sound effect that isn't strictly necessary for survival or function? Let's apply this to a real-world scenario. Imagine a person Alex is walking in a forest and stumbles across a snake. Immediately, Alex's body reacts. Adrenaline surges, muscles tense, eyes focus on the threat. But here's the question. Does Alex's survival depend on actually experiencing fear? From a purely mechanical standpoint, all that's needed is a set of physical responses. A philosophical zombie could be programmed to step back, simulate fear, and run without actually experiencing any fear. The response would be identical, but the inner sensation, the thing that makes fear truly fear, would be missing. For philosophers like Chalmers, this idea raises the question of what consciousness really adds to our existence. Why do we feel fear rather than simply reacting to danger? Is consciousness just an evolutionary accident, or does it serve a deeper purpose? One of the biggest implications of the philosophical zombie theory is its challenge to physicalism, the view that everything about the mind can be explained by physical processes. If a creature can behave identically to a human without consciousness, this suggests that consciousness might be something extra that doesn't arise purely from physical interactions. It raises the possibility that consciousness is an independent phenomenon, something that can't be reduced to brain processes alone. This has led some to suggest that consciousness might belong to a realm beyond the physical, perhaps as a fundamental feature of the universe, akin to space or time. Others argue against the possibility of philosophical zombies, claiming that the act of behaving in a complex human way inherently requires consciousness. They contend that every reaction, every decision, and every interaction is so deeply intertwined with consciousness that separating them is impossible. In this view, philosophical zombies are a conceptual paradox, a thought experiment with no real grounding in how life or consciousness actually functions. What makes the philosophical zombie concept so compelling is how it taps into the mystery of our own awareness. We know we're conscious because we feel our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. But knowing what consciousness actually remains elusive. The philosophical zombie theory highlights the unique, almost magical quality of consciousness. It's something that can't be observed or measured from the outside. You could study a human brain in exquisite detail, understand every chemical reaction and neural pathway, and still have no insight into what that person experiences internally. This idea invites us to ponder. If consciousness could be removed from our existence without altering our behavior, what does that say about the nature of reality? Are we simply collections of reactions with the illusion of self-awareness layered on top? Or is consciousness the very essence of our being? The philosophical zombie theory also taps into something deeply existential. If a person could be devoid of inner life, yet still behave in every way like you or me, it raises questions about identity and authenticity. How do we know other people are conscious? How do we know we're not philosophical zombies ourselves, only thinking we're conscious because that's what we're programmed to believe? While these questions may sound fantastical, they speak to the heart of our deepest uncertainties about consciousness. Is there more to being alive than just existing and reacting, or is that all we truly are? The philosophical zombie forces us to confront this ambiguity, making it a profound and perhaps unsettling reflection on the mystery of our inner lives. In the end, whether philosophical zombies are possible or not, this thought experiment serves as a mirror, reflecting the complexity and wonder of our own conscious experience. It asks us to marvel at the fact that, in a universe filled with stars, atoms, and energy, there exists a phenomenon as strange and beautiful as the feeling of simply being at. The overview effect. Picture this. You are in space far above Earth, surrounded by the endless dark canvas of the cosmos, staring down at the blue and green sphere we call home. In this moment, you see no borders, no countries, no divisions, only a single interconnected planet floating in the infinite vastness. This profound shift in perspective is called the overview effect, an extraordinary and often life-changing experience reported by astronauts who've seen Earth from space. The overview effect is not simply the awe of a beautiful view. It's a transformative moment that alters the way one perceives humanity, nature, and even existence itself. Astronauts who experience it often describe an overwhelming sense of unity and interconnectedness, a feeling that every person, creature, and ecosystem on Earth is part of a single, fragile whole. But what exactly causes this change, and why does seeing Earth from space make such a dramatic impact on one's psyche? To explore these questions, we'll dive into the concept of the overview effect and unpack the lessons it offers for how we live on this planet. The term overview effect was first coined by space philosopher Frank White in the 1980s. In interviews with astronauts, White discovered that nearly all of them experienced a profound cognitive shift when observing Earth from orbit. He described this effect as a sudden realization that the world's political, religious, and cultural conflicts seemed trivial compared to the vastness of space and the fragile beauty of Earth. From space, Earth appears as a tiny, self-contained ecosystem without visible boundaries. In White's words, the overview effect catalyzes a sense of responsibility and empathy, encouraging individuals to become advocates for the preservation and care of our planet. One of the most famous instances of the overview effect occurred during the Apollo 8 mission in 1968, when astronauts captured the now iconic Earthrise photo. For the first time in history, humanity saw Earth from beyond its orbit, a beautiful and isolated orb in the endless blackness of space. This image became a powerful symbol for the environmental movement, as people around the world began to grasp the interconnectedness of Earth's ecosystems and the need to protect them. To understand why this experience resonates so deeply, let's use an analogy. Imagine living in a tiny town your whole life, thinking it's the entire world. Your perspectives, beliefs, and concerns are shaped by what happens within the borders of this town. But then, one day, you climb to the top of a nearby mountain, and from this vantage point, you can see dozens of other towns, forests, and rivers stretching out into the horizon. Suddenly, the issues that seemed so pressing in your town feel smaller, and you realize you're part of a much larger landscape. In a way, the overview effect is like climbing that mountain, except instead of seeing neighboring towns, you see all of humanity united on a single isolated planet. Astronauts often say that the overview effect permanently alters their priorities and sense of purpose. The experience tends to foster a deep sense of stewardship toward Earth and a desire to promote peace, unity, and environmental protection. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, an Apollo 14 astronaut, described it as an instant global consciousness that emerged from seeing the interconnectedness of all life on Earth. He said, "You develop an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world and a compulsion to do something about it." Mitchell went on to become an advocate for environmental causes and dedicated his life to promoting sustainable practices. The overview effect also prompts philosophical questions about identity and existence. From the perspective of space, the boundaries that divide nations, races, and religions disappear, leaving only one shared home. This profound unity challenges the way people typically define themselves, encouraging a more expansive sense of identity. It pushes individuals to see themselves as Earthlings, rather than by national or cultural labels, emphasizing a shared humanity rather than divisions. The lessons of the overview effect reach far beyond astronauts. They are relevant to every person on Earth. Although most of us won't have the chance to view Earth from space, we can still tap into this mindset. By looking at images of Earth from space, exploring nature, and learning about the interconnectedness of ecosystems, we can foster a similar sense of unity and responsibility. The overview effect calls on us to shift from thinking in terms of me to we, recognizing that our actions impact everyone and everything on this delicate, life-supporting planet. In an age when environmental issues, political conflicts, and social divides seem more pressing than ever, the overview effect reminds us of the bigger picture. Earth is our shared home, and its well-being is inextricably tied to our own. Embracing this perspective can inspire us to take actions that reflect care, empathy, and responsibility toward all living beings and the planet itself. By understanding the overview effect, we don't just gain insight into the mindset of astronauts, we gain a powerful reminder of what unites us. It's a call to action for everyone to live with greater consciousness and compassion, knowing that we are all, in the grand expanse of the universe, passengers on the same fragile spaceship. The Infinite Hotel Paradox. Let's suppose there is a hotel with an infinite number of rooms. No matter how many guests arrive, there's always room for one more. This place isn't just a thought experiment. It's a fascinating way to explore the concept of infinity itself. First proposed by mathematician David Hilbert, the Infinite Hotel Paradox challenges our understanding of space, numbers, and what we think is logically possible. While it's impossible to build such a hotel in reality, thinking about it opens doors to understanding infinity in ways that are surprising and even a bit unsettling. Picture this. You arrive at Hilbert's Infinite Hotel, a grand structure that stretches beyond what the eye can see. The hotel's lobby is filled with guests checking in, yet every single room is already occupied. An infinite hotel with an infinite number of guests? That's a paradox in itself. How can there be a room for you if every room is full? Hilbert's Infinite Hotel confronts this with a clever twist. Since the hotel has infinite rooms, there's a way to make space for any newcomer. The solution seems straightforward, but opens up mind-bending implications about infinity and endlessness, challenging what we think is possible. So, you've arrived at the Infinite Hotel, and all the rooms are full. How can the manager accommodate you? Surprisingly, it's easy. The manager simply moves the guest in room 1 to room 2, the guest in room 2 to room 3, and so on down the line. In other words, each guest is shifted over by one room. Now, room 1 is open, and you can check in. Even though the hotel was fully occupied, one more guest can always be accommodated in an infinite system. Schwa. This seemingly simple solution becomes more interesting when you realize that no matter how many guests arrive, this shifting method can accommodate all of them. If an infinite bus with an infinite number of passengers shows up, each guest in the hotel can be moved to double their room number, room 1 to room 2, room 2 to room 4, and so on, freeing up every odd-numbered room for the new arrivals. By shifting the guests in specific ways, the manager can find space for an infinite number of new guests, over and over again. At the heart of Hilbert's infinite hotel paradox is the idea that infinity isn't one size fits all. In mathematics, some infinities are bigger than others, which sounds strange at first. For example, the set of all whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, is infinite, but the set of all real numbers, including fractions and decimals, between 0 and 1 is an even larger infinity. This concept, developed by mathematician Georg Cantor, challenges the notion of infinity as something singular and introduces us to the idea of countable and uncountable infinities. Hilbert's hotel represents a countably infinite set because we can assign a room number to each guest in a sequence, 1, 2, 3. However, if guests started arriving who each needed infinite space, let's say each one represents a decimal between 0 and 1, there would be no way to fit them into the hotel without some rooms remaining empty. This distinction between types of infinity shows us that some infinities can contain other infinities, a concept both simple in theory but perplexing in its implications. Hilbert's infinite hotel helps us see that the rules governing infinity are unlike anything we encounter in the finite world. In everyday life, if every room in a hotel is full, there's no way to fit in another guest without kicking someone out. But in the infinite hotel, new rules apply, and these rules teach us about the possibilities and limitations of infinity. Infinity, as represented by Hilbert's hotel, allows for endless possibilities. Yet this endlessness leads to paradoxes that challenge our fundamental understanding. For instance, if the hotel is always full, does that mean it's ever really empty? And if you keep adding guests, does the hotel actually grow? These questions are absurd, but they're also profound. They reveal the strange, counterintuitive ways infinity behaves when it's applied to practical scenarios. The infinite hotel paradox is more than just a clever riddle. It has real implications for fields like mathematics, physics, and philosophy. In cosmology, for instance, the concept of an infinite universe brings up similar questions about space, matter, and the limits of our understanding. If the universe is infinite, can it ever be full? And if there's always room for more galaxies, stars, and planets, what does that mean for our place in the cosmos? In the realm of philosophy, the paradox raises questions about the nature of existence and reality. Just as Hilbert's hotel can infinitely accommodate, does it mean that possibilities in life and thought are also infinite? Or does infinity suggest that there are no true limits, only constructs we impose upon the boundless? Hilbert's infinite hotel is a mind-bending concept, but it gives us a way to approach the unfathomable concept of infinity. By considering what it would mean to run a hotel with infinite rooms, we catch a glimpse into the vast, complex world of infinite sets, countability, and paradoxes that make up the world of higher mathematics. It's a thought experiment that stretches our minds beyond the finite limits we're used to, showing us that, in some realms, there truly is always room for one more. The next time you see a hotel with a no vacancy sign, you might just wonder what it would take to turn it into a place with infinite possibilities. A hotel where everyone is welcome, no matter how many guests arrive, in a place where the rules we know simply don't apply. Imagine you just woke up, floating in the vast emptiness of space. No body, no earth, no solar system, just your consciousness, your thoughts, and your memories. Everything you remember your childhood, your first love, what you had for breakfast this morning, might be nothing more than random arrangements of atoms creating false memories in a spontaneously formed brain. This is the Boltzmann Brain Paradox, and it's about to make you question everything you think you know about existence. In the late 1800s, physicist Ludwig Boltzmann was contemplating the nature of the universe and entropy, the tendency of all things to move from order to chaos. Think of it like your bedroom. It's much easier for your room to become messy than to spontaneously organize itself. The universe works the same way. But here's where things get strange. In an infinite universe with infinite time, anything that can happen, no matter how improbable, must happen eventually. Just as 1,000 monkeys typing for an infinite amount of time would eventually write Shakespeare, random atoms floating in space would eventually arrange themselves into meaningful patterns. Now consider two scenarios. Scenario 1, our entire universe with its billions of galaxies, countless stars, and all of human civilization emerged from the Big Bang and evolved over 13.8 billion years to create your current experience. Scenario 2, a single brain with all the necessary neural connections to hold your current memories and consciousness spontaneously formed from random atoms floating in space. Here's the unsettling part. According to the laws of probability, Scenario 2 is vastly more likely. It requires far fewer atoms to arrange themselves in the right way to create a single thinking brain than it does to create our entire observable universe. Think of it like this. Imagine you're playing with Lego bricks in zero gravity. Which is more likely to happen if the bricks randomly collide, forming a small house or an entire city? The house, of course. Similarly, a single brain requiring fewer precise arrangements is more probable than an entire universe. But this leads us to an even deeper question. If Boltzmann brains are more likely than real universes, and if we assume we're experiencing reality right now, aren't we more likely to be Boltzmann brains than real people? Every memory you have, every person you've met, every experience you've lived through could be nothing more than the random firing of neurons in a cosmic accident. Some philosophers argue that this paradox reveals a fundamental flaw in our understanding of probability and the universe. Others suggest it might point to deeper truths about consciousness and reality. Perhaps we're all just thoughts in the mind of a greater consciousness, or perhaps our understanding of cosmic probability needs serious revision. As you drift towards sleep, consider this. Whether you're a Boltzmann brain floating in space or a conscious being in a vast universe, your experiences, thoughts, and consciousness are real to you in this moment. The paradox doesn't just challenge our understanding of reality, it invites us to appreciate the extraordinary mystery of consciousness itself. In the end, perhaps the most comforting thought is this. If you are a Boltzmann brain that just popped into existence, you'll never be able to prove it one way or the other. So you might as well enjoy the reality you're experiencing, whether it's real or not.